Some stories don't start with a scream. They start with one word: no. I said no to babysitting my sister's kids because I had work, because I had a life, because I was tired of being treated like an obligation. And for a moment I thought that was the end of it. Just another family argument that would fade by Monday. But then a taxi showed up anyway. 2 little kids were dropped off with my name on a scrap of paper, except the address was wrong. And in a city like this, one missing letter can turn home into nowhere. A stranger's sidewalk, a cold curb. 2 small bodies waiting for an adult who never came. This isn't a story for us to judge or to gloat. We just need to listen with a little quiet. And remember how thin the line is between "I'll handle it" and "I put them in danger." Because sometimes the moment that breaks a family is also the moment that finally protects the ones who never had a choice. Stay with me, because 3 days after that taxi ride I got the call that destroyed her. My name is Knox Wilder. I'm not proud that this is my story, but it's mine and I've carried it like a bruise you can't stop pressing. Before I tell you everything, I just want to know you're here with me. Say, listening in the comments, or tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far a story like this can reach, and sometimes even that tiny connection makes the hard parts easier to say out loud. If you can hit subscribe too. Not because I'm chasing numbers, but because this channel is where I put the truths my own family tried to bury, and if you've ever been the one expected to stay quiet for the sake of family, you might need a place like this as much as I did. Thank you. And now, here's my story. I don't usually start my mornings pacing by the window, but today something itched at the back of my neck like a warning I hadn't earned yet. Outside Chicago was its usual blur wind cutting down Belmont buses, wheezing at the light, someone dragging a grocery cart through half-melted slush. Inside, I stood in my apartment, clean and silent like I needed it to be. 30 floors up, everything should feel far away, but it didn't. I glanced at the clock. My phone buzzed, emails, Slack notifications, but my eyes went straight to the calendar notification I'd marked in red. Saturday, 10 a.m., Keynote Strategic Risk Forecasting. That wasn't just another conference, that was my chance. The one Angela Park had hinted at last quarter when she said, "You keep this up, and we might have room for you upstairs." Upstairs meant more than a title change. It meant I wasn't just a tool pushing numbers for other people's decisions. It meant power. And all it would take was one clean weekend, one perfect delivery. I needed no distractions, no emergencies. That's why when Marissa texted me, "You'll be home Friday night, right? Just need to know what time." Something in my chest tightened. She didn't ask if I'd be home. Didn't ask if I could take the kids. Just the time. I knew that tone. Knew it too well. Growing up in Willow Creek, Marissa was the son the whole house revolved around. I was the good kid, good at waiting, at stepping aside. She got the bigger room, the new school, supplies, the car first. I got, "You know your sister needs this more." And I did. I swallowed it like vitamins. My mom Diane never said it unkindly. Just firmly, like the way gravity holds you down. She's sensitive, Knox. Be the one who understands. My dad, Howard, never looked up from his paper. That was his role. Eyes down, mouth shut. A silence that made everything feel like it had already been decided. By the time I was old enough to see the game, it was too late to change the rules. Saying no didn't come naturally. Not when your entire value in the family depends on how often you say yes. But the thing is, Harper and Eli, I love those kids. I've read Charlotte's Web with Harper enough times to recite entire chapters. I know Eli won't sleep without his stuffed bear, the one with the ear falling off that smells like peanut butter. I've picked them up from school, patched scraped knees, made grilled cheese on a stovetop I never use otherwise. Because when they're around, I forget how angry Marissa makes me. I just want to protect them. That's how she gets me. Every time. She hides behind their faces. Except now she doesn't even bother to hide. This time she didn't ask. She assumed. She assigned. And I started noticing it wasn't about help anymore. It was about control. She doesn't call it manipulation. She calls it family. She'll text me, "Need some me time," and expect me to drop everything like my life is an empty shelf waiting for her kids to sit on. Once she brought them over because she had a wine tasting event with her college friends. Another time it was emergency Botox. And my mom always defends her. She's been under so much stress. Then she turns to me. You don't mind helping your sister, do you? No one ever asks if I'm stressed, if I need help. They assume I'm fine. That's the role I got cast in, and every time I try to step out of it, someone reminds me it's not my place. I looked at the text again. What time? Not can you, not will you, just when. And that's when something caught my eye. The last time she sent the kids over, she wrote the address down for the Uber driver, but she left out the W. I live at 2317 W Belmont Avenue, not East. In this city, that one letter is everything. You switch it and you end up on the wrong side of the river in a completely different neighborhood. That detail stuck with me, because Marissa doesn't see details. She assumes the world will fix itself around her. I poured coffee I didn't really want, letting the steam burn close to my nose. My hand hovered over the phone. I hadn't said no yet, but I was going to. And I had the sickening feeling that no one in my family would ever forgive me for it. Thursday morning hit like a slap. I walked into the office with my suit still damp from the snow-dodging bodies in the elevator, juggling a laptop coffee, and the weight of knowing I couldn't drop a single ball this week. Angela had looped me into the prep for Saturday's summit, and she didn't do that unless she was testing something, or someone. By 10 a.m., I'd already reviewed 3 risk models and flagged a miscalculation in our client portfolio. I should have felt good. But the phone lit up again. Marissa 8 missed calls. I didn't answer. I knew how that conversation would go. I'd say no. She'd say, I can't believe you're doing this to me. Then she'd make it about Mom, about the kids, about how she has no one else. But then I made the mistake of calling back. She picked up on the first ring, voice sharp and already halfway through the sentence. I need you to take Harper and Eli this weekend. No greeting, no context, just command. I can't, I said. I have a work conference. It's not optional. You work all the time. You can't give me one weekend. It's not about giving, I replied, trying to stay calm. This is something I committed to months ago. I told you that. You're choosing your career over your family, she snapped. I stayed quiet for half a beat. She jumped into the silence. Grant surprised me with a Napa trip. First vacation in 2 years. I need this. That's great, I said. But you need to find someone else. You are someone else. I didn't answer. She dropped the final card. Mom said you'd do it. Of course she did. I didn't agree to anything I said. And I'm not available. Click. I stared at the phone for a second. Then I did something I've never done before. I called Grant. He answered with music in the background, his voice relaxed. Hey Knox, what's up? I just wanted to check in about this weekend. Marissa said you two were going out of town. Yeah, he said. She said you were taking the kids. No. I didn't say yes. There was a pause. But she told me you'd already confirmed, that it was all arranged. My stomach sank. Arranged how she said you were fine with it, and that she was setting up a car service to bring them over. I closed my eyes. She never asked. And I'm not free. She told me not to make it a thing, Grant muttered, suddenly uneasy. It was happening. The thing I feared. She was creating a setup where I was the villain, the unreliable one, the one who promised and flaked. And she wasn't improvising. She had planned this. I scrolled through our texts, no questions. Just, you'll be home, right? What time? She didn't need my permission, she needed my silence. I called my mom next. Hi, honey, she answered sweetly. Mom, did you tell Marissa I'd take the kids? Well, she said you'd said yes. I didn't. I said no. I have an important work event. Knox, she sighed. You always have some event. This isn't like that. You know your sister needs this. She never gets time for herself. She has a husband. She has money. She has options. This isn't about need. She's your sister. That line. Again and again. The ultimate guilt weapon. Do you even hear yourself, I asked. You're asking me to cancel something that matters for her comfort. Sweetheart, she said, tone turning cool. You've always been a little jealous of her. This isn't about the kids, is it? I couldn't believe it. After everything, I was still the problem. I was still the one who had to bend or be blamed. I ended the call, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel sorry. I felt furious. I texted Marissa word for word. I am not available this weekend. I will not be home. Do not send the kids to my apartment. I watched the message send. I watched the read receipt pop up. And still I knew it wouldn't matter. To someone like Marissa, a refusal isn't a boundary. It's just a hurdle. One she fully intends to step over. Saturday mornings used to mean something different. A long run by the lake, maybe a bagel from the corner shop, and a full day to feel like I had some say in my life. But today, even the air felt like it was holding its breath. I dressed in silence, navy suit, pressed shirt, conference badge clipped to my inner coat pocket. This was the kind of day careers could pivot on. Mine needed that. I had already checked my phone once and ignored the 4 missed calls from Marissa, each stamped somewhere between 5 hour and 6:30 a.m. I told myself I didn't owe her an explanation. I had already been clear, explicitly clear. I wasn't going to be home. I wasn't going to watch the kids. I buttoned the last button on my cuff and headed for the door. That's when the text came through. Don't make this harder than it has to be. The kids are on their way. It didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a declaration. My fingers fumbled. I dialed her immediately. Straight to voicemail. Again. Again. Then I called Grant. He picked up on the 3rd ring, his voice groggy as if he were just now realizing something was off. Hey Knox, where are the kids? He paused. What did Marissa send them in a taxi? More silence. Yeah. I thought she talked to you. She didn't. I told her no. Repeatedly. Grant's tone shifted. She said you always cave. She said you were just being dramatic like usual. That you'd be home. I'm not home. I was walking faster now, feet slapping against concrete. Grant, who's with them? What do you mean, in the cab? Who's with them? They're 5 and 8, Grant. He stopped. She said it was a quick ride, Knox. She said it'd be fine. Did she give them my full address? I don't know. The blood drained from my face. I stopped walking. My heart pounded like it knew something I didn't. Grant, did she give them? Belmont Ave. That exact address. I didn't see the slip. Jesus, I muttered. She's done this before. Left off the W. Cabs can end up miles away. I ended the call and scrolled back through old texts. Sure enough. 2317 Belmont Ave. Without the W. The difference between West Belmont and East Belmont towns in this city. Entire neighborhoods. I sent a new message to Marissa fast, my thumbs moving on autopilot. The address is 2317 W Belmont Ave Apt 30B, not East. Fix it now. No read receipt, no typing bubble. Just a gaping void where common sense should have been. 10 minutes later, as I was stepping off the curb toward the conference building, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on instinct. Mr. Wilder, yes. This is Officer Tessa Lang with the CPD. I'm calling about Harper and Eli Wilder, your niece and nephew. I froze. What happened? They were dropped off this morning by a taxi at the corner of 2317 Belmont Avenue without the directional. There's no apartment 30B at that location. My throat dried out. We received a call from a concerned resident who found them alone on the sidewalk. The children were crying and holding a slip of paper with your name and the address written on it. Oh my God. They're safe, she added quickly. They're here at the 14th District Station. But this is a formal incident, Mr. Wilder. Because of their age and the circumstances, it's being documented as potential child endangerment. I swore under my breath. Are you able to come down now? I looked across the street at the conference center, glass walls, lanyards swinging, people checking in. Then I turned back toward the road, already calling for a rideshare. I'm on my way. And in that exact moment, watching that building full of the life I'd worked years to build disappear behind me, I knew this wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was a disaster with a paper trail, the kind that changes custody, marriages, reputations. And I was walking straight into it. The car ride to the station felt like something outside of time. I couldn't remember how many lights we hit. Couldn't hear the driver's voice. Just the rattling in my head and the sound of Marissa's text looping over and over again. Don't make this harder. When I got there, the front desk pointed me to a side room children's intake, a small waiting area with cartoon posters peeling from the walls. And there they were. Harper ran to me before I'd even spoken. Her coat was zipped up crooked, her eyes were swollen and wet. She threw her arms around me, shaking. I told Eli you'd come. She whispered into my jacket. I kept telling him. Eli clung to his stuffed bear curled up in the corner seat like a question mark. When he looked at me, his bottom lip trembled. I crouched. You're both okay. You're safe. I've got you. It took everything in me not to cry or scream or punch something, but I kept my voice level, calm, warm, like I hadn't just heard that my niece and nephew were abandoned on a sidewalk because someone didn't care enough to check a letter and an address. Officer Lang came in a few minutes later with a clipboard and kind eyes. She nodded to me. You're Knox Wilder, yes. She handed me a form. We'll need a statement. You're listed as their emergency contact, but we need confirmation of your relationship. I showed her my ID, family photos. She accepted it. They were found by a woman who lives in the building, she said. Rena Caldwell. She saw them outside through her window. Harper was trying to calm Eli, saying, Mom said he's coming soon. Your nephew kept asking when. I swallowed. Hard. Do you know who arranged their ride this morning, she asked. I nodded slowly. Their mother. Marissa Wilder. My sister. Did she notify you ahead of time? I told her no. Multiple times. I told her I wouldn't be home. I have text messages. Officer Lang tilted her head. Did she give you any indication she would send them anyway? I handed her the last text. She read it silently. I see. She made a note, then looked back up. Do you know how the taxi was arranged? No, I said. But Grant, her husband, said she told him I was fine with it. She did not inform you of their travel details. Nothing. I didn't even know they were coming until I got that message. She sighed. Mr. Wilder, I need to be clear, this incident qualifies as child endangerment. The children were left unsupervised in a public place with an incorrect address. That's not something we can overlook. I nodded. She stepped out briefly. That's when the phone rang again. Marissa. Officer Lang walked back in. Would you mind taking that here on speaker? I picked up. Marissa. Knox. What the hell is going on? You tell me. Harper and Eli were dropped at the wrong address. They were alone. Oh, come on. You're making this a thing again. I told you they were coming. You told me after they were already in the car. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, Marissa. I'm at the police station. Silence. They were found crying on the sidewalk, holding a slip of paper with my name on it. That's how the police got involved. More silence. Jesus. You just want to make me look like a monster. Officer Lang stepped forward and took the phone. Ms. Wilder, this is Officer Lang with the Chicago PD. I'm obligated to inform you that we are documenting this as a formal case of child endangerment. You are expected to return to the city and cooperate. Immediately. I didn't mean, look, I'm dealing with a lot right now. I'll handle it when I get back. Ms. Wilder, I must advise you that this is not optional. The line went dead. Lang turned to me. She hung up. I blew out a breath. My phone buzzed again. Grant. He sounded panicked. I just heard. Jesus, Knox. I thought you had them. I didn't. She lied to both of us. He cursed. She told me everything was set. That you were expecting them. That she cleared it. She didn't even send them to the right building. There was a pause. I'm coming back, he said. I need to be there. Officer Lang handed me a pen. We'll finish the statement now. I signed the intake form and agreed to take temporary custody. But the damage was done. Before I left, Officer Lang said, we'll be forwarding this case to Child Protective Services. Expect contact within 24 to 48 hours. Harper held my hand the entire ride home. Eli fell asleep against my shoulder. That night I put them both in the guest room and stood alone in the dark kitchen, the city lights spilling through the windows like quiet warnings. Then the text messages from my mother started to pour in. Knox, what did you do? You're tearing the family apart. Call me now. I didn't answer, not yet. Because for the first time in my life I wasn't just part of the family anymore. I was standing against it. That first night after everything I sat on the edge of my couch with Harper's tiny fingers tangled in mine, and Eli curled up like a question mark beside her arms clutched tight around a stuffed monkey so worn the fur was matted into knots. They didn't sleep so much as fade in and out, twitching, murmuring, jolting awake. Every creak in the apartment set them off. At one point Harper mumbled "Kau ko chak taxi kong kwe lai jon tui kong kong." Her voice was small and broken. I swallowed hard and nodded, not trusting myself to speak. But the truth was I wasn't sure of anything anymore. By morning I'd barely slept. My phone buzzed while I was trying to convince Eli to eat dry cereal with a plastic spoon and keep his milk off my work files. A woman named Janelle Brooks from CPS introduced herself in a tone that was both calm and loaded with consequence. This pertains to an open child endangerment investigation involving Harper and Elijah Green, she said. My stomach dropped. She asked me to walk her through everything, how and when. Marissa first asked me how I declined, whether I knew the kids were coming. I opened my laptop and pulled up the text where I'd clearly said no, forwarded her the screenshot, then told her about the voicemails and the call from Officer Lang. Then she asked something that made me go completely still. Where is the father now and who currently has legal placement of the children? I blinked. Grant was in Boston. Marissa was unreachable. And I was not a parent. Right now, I said. They're with me. They spent the night here. Janelle let out a breath. Understood, she said. We'll need to assess the safety of their current placement until we determine the next steps. Not even 20 minutes later, Marissa called. When I didn't pick up, she texted, "You're doing this on purpose. You're destroying our family. You think you're some kind of hero?" I stared at the message. Classic Marissa, burning the house down and blaming the smoke on someone else. Then came the barrage from Mom. First, it was a polite, almost maternal voicemail. "Honey, I heard about the misunderstanding. Can you please de-escalate with CPS?" These things follow families for years. Then more calls, then texts. Marissa is a mother, not a monster. You didn't have to involve outsiders. You always want to make yourself the victim. She ended with, "It's your sister, Knox. You either protect your blood or you betray it." I replied with one sentence. 2 children were abandoned on a sidewalk. She didn't respond. At CPS's suggestion, I contacted the taxi company to get the ride logs. The manager stalled me, said I needed a subpoena. But then by some miracle or guilt, the dispatcher transferred me to the driver himself, a man named Lionel Reyes. His voice was tired, scratchy, like he smoked a pack a day. "Yeah, I remember those kids," he said. Girl was polite. Told her Mom said Uncle would be waiting. I asked if he saw me. Nope. Dropped him at the address. No doorman, nothing. Just told her to go in. That's what the mom said to do. I sat there gripping the phone, cold creeping up my neck. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. Later, Grant called. I could hear the wear in his voice, like 3 days without solid ground had caught up to him. "Marissa told me you agreed," he said. "She said you'd be waiting in the lobby." "She lied to both of us," I replied. "Check the timestamps." I told her no. There was silence. Then he said, "I'm pulling all the old messages. I need to know if this was a one-off or a pattern." By the end of the day, I had everything. Screenshots, calendar entries showing missed pickups, emails from the school noting Harper waiting outside alone, voice memos. Harper had sent me in the past, Mom forgot again. I'm sitting on the curb. All the pieces I'd never stitched together before. All the red flags I'd once explained away. That night Grant called again. "I'm hiring a lawyer," he said. Avery Cole. Emergency motion. Marissa's spiraling. She's not just careless anymore. She's dangerous. I didn't argue. I barely made it through the workday, and when I finally walked into my office, Angela, my boss, pulled me aside. "You look like hell," she said. I told her the short version. I waited for judgment, maybe even a warning about professionalism. Instead, she nodded and said, "Whatever you need, you've got it. Family comes first, even when they make it damn hard." That night I sat in the dark while the kids slept in the guest room, the city buzzing outside my window, and stared at a single message Grant had just sent lawyers filing in the morning. If it all goes through, Marissa gets the call by 2 p.m. 3 days since the taxi. 3 days too late. And I knew that call would destroy her. But what I didn't know yet was that it would also change me. Tuesday morning. Day 3. Harper was watching cartoons with Eli on mute while I stared at the email from Avery Cole, Grant's attorney. Subject line, urgent. Custody, emergency motion. I clicked the Zoom link and joined the meeting. Grant's face appeared first hollow-eyed, jaw tight. Then Avery's a woman in her early 40s with the kind of voice that made people stop talking. "Mr. Hart," she said, "do you have the documentation we discussed?" I nodded and uploaded everything: the text messages, call logs, Officer Lang's police report, and a PDF summary of the call with Lionel Reyes. Avery skimmed quickly. "This will work. We're filing for temporary sole physical custody and an emergency hearing. We'll ask for a no-contact order pending evaluation. You're prepared to testify if needed?" "Yes," I said. "Anything." Janelle Brooks from CPS called midway through. She was firm, but diplomatic. "Ms. Green hasn't responded to our latest requests. Her voicemail is full. Her last known communication was with her mother, not our office. We're escalating to protective placement procedures." I barely finished processing that when my phone rang again. Marissa. I didn't answer. Then Diane called. "You're kidnapping her children," she snapped. "You've turned this into a circus." "I'm doing what you never did," I said. "I'm protecting them." "You always hated her," she hissed. "You've waited your whole life to bring her down." Then she said it. "We'll go to the police. You're holding minors without consent." I hung up and called Avery. "She's threatening to report me." "Let her," Avery said. "CPS has it documented. You're following a direct safety directive. They come for you. We'll be ready." At 2:11 p.m., Marissa received the call. I didn't hear it, didn't see her reaction, but I knew the moment it landed. Diane went silent. Marissa's phone went off the grid. Grant texted, "It's done." The court had accepted the motion. Judge Evelyn Hart issued a temporary order. Grant would have full custody. Marissa's access suspended pending full evaluation. Any contact had to be supervised. CPS followed with its own psychological evaluation, home assessment, parenting plan. Grant filed for divorce 30 minutes later. I sat alone in the living room staring at the empty coffee mug on my table like it could explain what had just happened. I didn't cheer. I didn't smile. Because this wasn't a win. It was the breaking of something that should have been fixed a long time ago. That night, Grant arrived to pick up Harper and Eli. They ran into his arms like magnets snapping home. Harper looked back at me once before the elevator closed. I stood there for a long time after in the quiet hum of my apartment. And then I looked at my phone. Another message from Diane. Short, sharp, final. "You've chosen your side." I put the phone down. No, I didn't choose sides. I chose the kids. And tomorrow I'd stand in court not as a brother, not as a son, but as the one person who didn't look away. I don't remember the elevator ride. I don't remember checking in at the security desk or the way my name echoed off the marbled walls of the Cook County Family Court when they called for Knox Ellery Morgan, witness for the petitioner. I only remember the silence that came before it. The kind that curls into your chest like a hook and pulls everything else inward. I felt it while standing outside the courtroom door, hands cold, despite the sweat at the back of my neck. I had promised myself that I wouldn't freeze, that I'd tell the truth, even if it meant I'd never be able to walk into a Thanksgiving dinner again. Avery stood beside me, calm and precise as ever, flipping through his folder like he wasn't about to go to war. "Stay anchored," he said, not looking at me. "You're not here to feel. You're here to tell." I nodded. Behind us, Grant sat with Harper's tiny backpack in his lap, knuckles white around the strap. He looked more like a father than I'd ever seen him, tense, alert, fiercely protective. "Remember the chain," Avery said. "Thursday night call, your refusal, her follow-up text, the drop-off, the police report, CPS, and now the emergency motion. That's your spine. Don't let them pull you off it." I swallowed. The whole timeline was carved into my skull by now. I could recite it backward if I had to. In the hallway just before they opened the door, I saw her. Marissa, hair done, blazer too big on her frame, like she was trying to look small. Her eyes flicked over me and kept moving as if I were a water stain on the floor. But behind her, Diane appeared like a shadow. "Con route Loigi," she said under her breath as she brushed past me. It's not too late. It was, and she knew it. Howard was silent. As always, a human wallpaper. Grant reached for my shoulder, grounding me. "Don't forget why you're here," he said. "It's not about us anymore." Then the courtroom doors opened. The judge was already seated. Evelyn Hart, firm-eyed, gray suit, reputation for cutting through theatrics. I remembered what Avery told me: she doesn't like noise. She likes facts. You want to win with her. Be clear. Be measured. Be unshakable. Marissa's attorney started with a soft story. A loving mother overwhelmed. A stressful week. A misunderstanding between siblings. Ms. Morgan, he said, assumed her brother Mr. Morgan would continue his history of support as he had done many times in the past. It was never her intent to place the children in harm's way. They tried to blur the line, make the drop-off look like a miscommunication, not a setup. My stomach turned. Avery stood sharp as glass. "Your Honor, we will present a timeline supported by digital records, sworn statements, and third-party testimony. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a manufactured emergency meant to coerce my client into child care he had explicitly declined. He submitted the evidence, text threads, call logs, even a voice memo where I dictated a message to Marissa saying I wouldn't be home that day. Then came my turn. The bailiff called my name. I walked to the stand on legs that felt like air. I was sworn in. I looked directly at Judge Hart. And I told the truth. I told them about the call, the text, the line in her message. The kids are on their way. How I panicked. How I called back and got nothing. How the police found Harper and Eli alone on a sidewalk near Belmont, wrong side of town, no doorman, no 30B apartment. How Officer Lang called me. How I left the conference and raced across the city. No, I said I didn't know they were coming. No, I didn't agree to receive them. No, I didn't send the address to the taxi. I didn't even know a cab was involved until after. "Would you say your sister was aware you had declined?" Avery asked. "She'd already called me several times. She read my texts. She knew I wasn't available." And yet she proceeded. She did. Avery turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Rena Caldwell to the stand." A short woman with silver hair entered. The 911 caller. She spoke softly but firmly, describing how she found the children crying on the sidewalk, Harper trying to comfort Eli. They said their uncle was waiting, but they didn't know which building was his. I couldn't leave them like that. They looked forgotten. Then came Officer Lang. Her report was official, clipped but damning. The children were minors, unattended, dropped off without adult accompaniment. No paperwork, no guardian. She filed it under child endangerment. By now, even Judge Hart's expression had hardened. But the final nail came from Lionel Reyes, the taxi driver. He stepped forward in uniform. I was told someone would be waiting. The woman who ordered the ride said, "He's outside the building. Just drop them and go." "Did you verify the identity of the person picking them up?" "No." She insisted he was already there. I just let them out. "And who booked the ride?" Avery asked. "Marissa Morgan. It's in the dispatch records. No one in the courtroom made a sound." Then came the counterattack. Marissa's attorney stood, calm, smiling. "Mr. Morgan," he said, turning to me, "do you currently live with a romantic partner?" Objection. Sustained. He shifted tactics, accused me of controlling behavior, of turning the children against their mother, of manipulating Grant. "Do you intend to file for permanent guardianship?" he asked me directly. I looked at him. "I intend to do what keeps them safe." He tried harder. "Isn't it true that you dislike your sister? That you resent her place in the family?" I kept my jaw locked. "It's not about liking or disliking her. It's about what she did." Then, mid-recess, it happened. Marissa tried to approach the kids in the hallway. Harper flinched. Eli backed behind Grant. A bailiff intervened. The contact violated the terms of the emergency order. She argued, loudly. "They're my kids," she screamed just loud enough for the gallery to hear. "This is Knox's fault. He turned them against me." And just like that, the mask slipped. Back in the courtroom, Judge Hart gave her ruling. Until further evaluation, she said, primary custody shall remain with Grant Morgan. All visitation will be supervised. The court further orders parenting classes and a psychological assessment for Ms. Morgan. Marissa stared at the judge like she'd misheard her. But I hadn't. I had never heard anything clearer. I stood in that courtroom knowing I had crossed a line I could never uncross. I'd exposed my sister. I'd stood against my mother. And I'd told the whole damn truth. The next morning I drove Harper and Eli to school. Grant rode in the passenger seat, half asleep, coffee untouched. The kids sat in the back, whispering about art class and Halloween costumes. No one cried. No one begged me to explain what was happening. They were just children. For the first time in weeks. When we got home, Grant printed out the new family schedule and taped it to the fridge. Wake up at 6:45, breakfast by 7:15, school drop-off 8:00. No exceptions. He turned to me. "You ready to sign this?" It wasn't a question about ink. He meant the guardianship papers, emergency designation. If anything happened to him, the court would name me first, not Marissa as the kid's temporary legal guardian. Avery slid the form across the table. "It doesn't mean forever," he said, "but it means you're the stopgap, the firewall." I signed it. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt the weight of it. Like strapping on armor you never wanted but knew you'd wear again. The first supervised visit took place at the Highland Family Center. Miles Rourke. The visitation monitor was professional calm. He observed everything. And he didn't miss much. Ms. Morgan speaks mostly about herself, he noted. Grievances, frustrations, very little child-centered interaction. After one visit, Harper told me, she kept asking if we liked living with Uncle Grant more. She cried, Eli added, but then she played Candy Crush. That night, Eli sat beside me on the couch. He reached for my hand. "Cow," he asked, voice small, "will you promise we won't ever be left again?" I didn't say I'll try. I didn't say I hope. I said I promise. And I meant it. Of course, Marissa didn't go quietly. I used to think boundaries were something you set to protect your peace. Now I know they can also protect someone else's childhood. Not in a dramatic, heroic way. Just in the quiet way that matters most. 2 kids safe in their beds. A routine that doesn't shift with someone's mood. A promise that gets kept even when it costs you relationships you thought you couldn't live without. And maybe that's the part I'm still sitting with. Sometimes the people who call you selfish are the ones who benefited most from you having none. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel like victory, it feels like grief with a backbone. But if we're honest, what we call family only means something when the smallest among us are protected, not used as leverage. If you're still here with me, thank you. And if you want to be part of a place where stories like this can be shared without shame, where we listen, we learn, and we don't have to pretend everything was fine, then I'd love for you to subscribe. Not as a favor, just as a quiet way of saying I'm here. And if you feel like it, leave a comment maybe where you're listening from, or just a few lines about a moment you had to choose truth over peace. I read more than you think. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next story.